Beautiful day, right? Beautiful place, this facility to gather as a community, as leaders, those who want to invest in this community, this state to make it better. So we pray for your presence and your wisdom and your guidance to make that possible. And we just thank you for this great nation and these flags that are sitting on each table that remind us of the incredible sacrifice so many have made for us to enjoy the freedom we enjoy this day, even to be here. So we honor them. We thank you most of all for your sacrifice to save us in your Son, Jesus Christ. Thank you for this food we're about to receive. May you bless it. We ask all this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Let's start with this table to go get your lunch, and we'll let you start with us since you got to First Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce, and I look forward to serving as your president beginning in January. I want to make you aware of several important dates we have coming up. Our contact information for anything that you might need us for is on the brochure on the table. Next week, on Friday the 25th, we're having Lavonia Day at the I-85 Georgia Visitor Center. The information is on the blue sheet on your table. If you're a merchant or a business and you want to display your product or merchandise or anything that you want to do to promote travelers to come by and stop into town and see what we have. More than 1,000 carloads of people will pass through the Visitor Center on Friday. So it's a perfect place for you to display your information. I'm going to tell you about the Wet and Wild event coming up on Lake Hartwell, which will be August 8th through 10th at the Hartwell Marina. The information is on a sheet on your table. That's primarily sponsored by the Clark County Chamber of Commerce, but we will be helping with that too. August 21st is a joint meeting between the Chamber of Commerce and the United Way kickoff campaign. It will be here at noon at the depot, and for reservations you can give us a call. Then September 27th is our annual fall festival. And if you would like to be a vendor or have an exhibit, let us know. We believe that the thousands of people that come into town for our festivals will somehow return to shop and dine. So we think that they are an important event for tourists and residents alike. January 27th is the day for our annual banquet, and it will be held at the American Legion Hall. The theme this year is Island Time in Lavonia, and we will again have catering by the Rolling Chefs that were so popular last year, and we will have Reggie Sterrett performing his style of Margaritaville music. You'll find index cards on your tables. If you want to write out a question for our speaker to answer, there will be a question and answer period at the end of his remarks. And of course, if you're not already a member of the Lavonia Chamber of Commerce, we encourage you to do so. And you will find a sheet that is an application on the table if anyone's interested in joining us as we promote business, education, and tourism in our community. And now, I have a confession to make. I am married to a lobbyist. My husband, John Powell, is managing partner of Powell & Dunn Management Services located here in Lavonia on Broken Street. And he and his partner manage business associations and lobby the state legislature on behalf of their clients. John has been an executive vice president of the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, and he has worked in every legislative session since 1986. And he once opposed Speaker of the House, Tom Murphy, so effectively on an issue that the Speaker threatened to throw him off the Capitol balcony. And John will now introduce our guest speaker, and then he will moderate the Q&A.
Speaker Murphy, he's only kidding. I think he's only kidding. I guess it's one of the perks of being president President-elect. Before I introduce our speaker, I want to recognize Senator Frank Ginn and thank him for joining us today. Again, appreciate you being here. Before I came back to Georgia in 1986, I was exposed to a lot of different legislative bodies in a lot of states. And I can tell you we're very fortunate in Georgia that we still have a citizen legislature. They don't meet 6 months or 8 months or 10 months like they do in some states. They come in, they get their job done, they adjourn and go home, and so they can make a living. And that's the way it's supposed to work. But you know that some of the news media, especially in Atlanta, really like to criticize our General Assembly a lot and every opportunity they get. But I tell you that our General Assembly, our state government, does a good job of managing the state's business and representing their constituents. For example, Georgia came through the recession with no tax increase, like a lot of states did have tax increases. In fact, the legislature and the governor actually eliminated some taxes in Georgia that were counterproductive to job creation, and we're seeing the benefits of that now. We kept our AAA bond rating, which a lot of states did not. The federal government has had some problems in that area as well, as you know. And just recently in Georgia, the state paid back the federal government almost $1 billion that the state had to borrow to cover unemployment benefits during the recession. I believe I'm correct in saying that all states had to borrow money for that purpose during the recession, and few, if any, other than Georgia, have paid it all back. So we're very fortunate to have with us today one of those citizen legislators. Our legislator, our representative, Alan Powell. Alan has been in the General Assembly for over 2 decades, and he knows how to get things done in Atlanta. Some of you might recall that Alan switched parties a while back. He moved from Democrat to Republican. But my observation is that Alan hasn't changed a bit. He was a conservative, pro-business Democrat, and he's now a conservative, pro-business Republican. One of the things I admired most about Alan is his very strong independent streak. Alan worries a lot less about party lines and party discipline than he does about serving his district and representing his constituents. So it's my pleasure to introduce, as Speaker Ralston would say, the gentleman from the 32nd, Alan Powell.
Thank you, John, and I appreciate that introduction. And Susan, just because you wake up looking at a lobbyist every morning, don't worry. When I look in the mirror, I have to look at a darn politician. I want to thank y'all for the invite, and what a great pleasure it is and privilege to be here today. I noticed that Susan had said if you got questions, write them on the memo cards and all that. Well, let me assure you that if I can't answer the question, Frank Ginn's here. As a senator, he'll figure out some answer, whether it's right or wrong. As I look at Frank, I've always wondered, I told Frank a couple, 3 years ago when he took office. I guess it's been 4 years now, right? They go through a system over in the Senate that they teach them to do things different in the Senate than we do in the House, like always wear a name badge. And that works pretty well, like most people over here don't know Frank. He only worked over here for years, Frank Royston in the county. But I notice he's got his name badge on where everybody can tell it it's Frank Ginn. Now that works pretty well, y'all. Robin told me that she gets awful tired going to bed every night and he's got that senatorial name badge. But I'll tell you what a great privilege it is. When Susan had asked me to come and speak, I didn't know, but I figured it would just be the legislative issues that we had dealt with this past year. But then when I read the paper, I saw I was going to be speaking about economic development, tourism, and those things today. So bear with me, and I'll try to give you my take on certain things. Ann has already told me to try to limit it to 15 minutes. And, but being married to a Baptist minister all the time, I'm sure that she prodded Richard to get on this now. Let me tell you where we are, and specifically I'm going to address my remarks toward the region down here in northeast Georgia. But the state of Georgia is in excellent shape. John used part of what I was going to talk about today, about the state of Georgia. we're in excellent shape. We're different from other states. You know, people compare us and want to go back to Georgia, South Carolina, us living on the state line and such as that. But let me tell you about Georgia. We went through probably one of the hardest recessions that we've seen in recent history, probably in our lifetime. And Georgia came through it. We came through that because of how our state is structured and how the legislature and how we do our business and handle budgets and taxation. When Governor Deal was elected 4 years ago, and I'll go ahead and get this out of the way, if anybody wants to know where I stand on Governor Deal, I will tell you that I think he's done an excellent job. And I say that because I have watched his leadership skills. When he came in, the state had cut the budget from that previous governor. We had cut the budget some $5 or $6 billion because of the downturn in the economy. We did not raise taxes. We can cut budgets because the state constitution says that that's what we do. We can't spend money we don't have. And Governor Deal walked into a situation and the state was not in very good shape, but we were coming out of it. We had suffered through the biggest part of the recession. But Governor Deal saw a need and a necessity. It's not about raising taxes. If you want to prosper, you need to reach out and make your state appealing to the business segment so that people can do business. And if people are doing business, they're creating jobs. If they're creating jobs, people are working. People aren't on social assistance. People are spending money. They're building homes, or they're shopping with local merchants, and they're borrowing money from the bank so that friends that I see over a certain table can loan more money. But you know, Georgia, we came through it very well. John made a reference. Probably the proudest thing that I can tell you about your state is that we continue to be one of the very few states in this nation that has a AAA bond rating. And that says a lot as to what is happening. You have states in this nation that owe more money than a lot of the nations on this planet. Georgia does not owe money. What we have is that 6 or 7% of bonded indebtedness that goes to long-term projects, but we continue to be in good shape. And they shift a few gears. I know this is what Susan wants me to talk about, economic development. Franklin County, specifically. I have the pleasure of telling you that if the good Lord lets me live to January, I will celebrate my silver anniversary when I'm sworn in again. Thanks to folks, a lot of the very people in this room. I will also tell you that for 25 years I have been telling the people in Franklin County, years ago when they used to talk about job creation and economic development, I used to tell them 25 years ago, be careful what you want, you're going to get it. You can't stop job creation, you can't stop growth, especially when you're sitting dead center. Franklin County is split down the center by I-85, one of the fastest growing economic corridors from Atlanta to Charlotte. We're sitting halfway in between almost. This is an area that's going to grow. This area is part of this northeast Georgian region. You have Hart County that borders it. You've got Stevens County. You've got Madison County, Jackson County, Banks County. All of these, we're a growth area. And I will tell you that what benefits one county and what benefits one municipality benefits the others if they allow it to benefit. It's a regional concept today. So those local government officials, you know, yes, they do those things that are necessary in their jurisdiction, but they also need to know that what they're also doing is going to benefit someone else in job creation. When Caltech built on, expanded, those jobs didn't just come from Franklin County alone. They came from Hart County, they came from Jackson County, they came from Madison County, Stevens County. The same with AutoZone. I'd like to see a breakdown of AutoZone where the employees live to see just how widespread that is, because people are looking for jobs. Our area is going to continue to grow. Certain things have been done, you know, over the last few years, and one one of the reasons I do continue to give praise to this governor that's our sitting governor today. He had ideas that I didn't necessarily agree with. Of course, anybody that knows me knows that I don't agree with much of anything 100% of the time, but you got to show it. And there was an issue on taxation that I had real problems with for years. The industrial segment of our economy and the lobbyists for industry, heavy industry, had been preaching for years about taking the sales tax off of energy use. And I just thought that was the craziest idea in the world, because you know that if you got it, and everybody agrees and understands, you've got to have tax revenues to run government. To me, fairness is the right idea, that everybody pays their equal parts. And you know, the idea about taking the sales tax off energy while homeowners were paying continued pay just didn't sit well with them. Well, it passed, and I get to the, and I bought it, and I voted for the same tax bill, and that was the bill a couple, 3 years ago. You may remember that changed the auto tag fees, and the money, that extra money that came in on that, basically is what was used to cut the sales tax and do economic incentives to manufacturing and agriculture. Well, I didn't know how this was going to work, but the first thing I knew when we did the groundbreaking for the Caterpillar plant over in Oconee County, just a short ways away from here, I was talking to the CEO over there at Caterpillar, and we were having a general conversation that I'm known to ask specific questions, and he told me up front there was 2 reasons that Caterpillar decided to locate the biggest manufacturing facility that's been built in recent history in the state of Georgia. One of them was the Port of Savannah, international trade, a gem that those of us in North Georgia, a lot of us know about it, but we don't always appreciate it. We appreciate Savannah for other issues. But that port down there means so much to the manufacturing and trade for this state. But then the second thing he told me was when they put the fine pen to the books as to what the manufacturing cost would be, they looked at everything. They looked at tax abatements, they looked at everything on the sun, and when they looked at the one thing that put Georgia over the top of every other state was that we had changed the law to take the sales tax off of energy use for manufacturing and agriculture. That put it over the top. And that's been nothing but a bonus to the state of Georgia. We've had several new large industries that have come into the state since then. Where are we going in northeast Georgia? Diversification of industry is a good idea. That's what we have today. We're probably one of the most diverse parts of the state. What will we have in the future? I continue to see this strip from Atlanta all the way up I-85, and that means Franklin County is going to be the beneficiary of an awful lot of development in the future. Why? Not just the geographic location, but let me tell you what you got. I like to brag on northeast Georgia. I don't necessarily brag on Atlanta a lot of the time, but I can brag on northeast Georgia. Let's talk about education. We got some of the best public schools there are. I mean, we do have some good public schools, and they have taken the ball and they've run with it. Franklin County High School over here has had one of the best vocational ag programs of any school system before it got to be popular of doing these type of programs. Madison County is doing the same. Park County is now going back into the technical vocational, enhancing their programs. You got great schools over here. You got great schools in the whole region. You got Emmanuel College down here in Franklin Springs. You've got Athens Tech that's 40 miles away. You've got North Georgia Tech that's, well, it's not even that far when you look at the satellite to the north of us. You got the University of Georgia. You've even got probably one of the better tech schools or trade schools over here at Clemson that can be drawn on. So education, we've got a lot of resources for post-secondary education. The tax structure, for the biggest part, is very much an enhancement to industry to come in. Very much an enhancement. But let me caution that it's also the detriment to a lot of businesses. They want to see fair tax. They want to see the same amount of tax being levied that they're gonna have to pay on property and use tax, as opposed to, quite frankly, certain areas like DeKalb County. If the company's gonna look at DeKalb, or they're gonna look at Franklin County, I tell you what you're gonna look at. Look at your law enforcement. You have a very, very protected area. Good law enforcement. We have no more crime, probably less crime than any other jurisdictions. And probably 2 months from now, you're gonna have a Georgia State Patrol post. It's gonna be located up here in the Gateway Center. I scratch my head at times when I see what some of the local officials do. We all understand politics. But you know, when the Hart County Board of Commissioners decided to build the Georgia State Patrol post and donate it to the state of Georgia so that they would have that, I thought it was interesting at that time, some of the comments or the explanation to the voters and taxpayers in Hart County was, oh, that's going to raise money for us. Well, it scared the dickens out of folks. They would be stopping everybody in the world. But I told somebody that one of the biggest beneficiaries of that state patrol post is going to be economic development. Because by building that newest state patrol post in the Gateway Industrial Park in that area over there, they can actually start advertising that industrial park as a high security industrial area. And that's what a lot of your industries are wanting today. But that's the type of thing that we need to think about. As I say, you can always make lemonade out of lemons. So, you know, we're in great shape. Tourism. I think that we have probably one of the finest places for folks to come visit. It's easier to pick Yankees than it is cotton. I'll just tell you. Done a long time saving. But we want tourists. We want people to come into this area. But I will tell you that you can never stop trying to create events, things to give people a reason. For people to come visit, they've got to have a reason. They've got to have a purpose. There's got to be a venue. Something has got to be there to draw them into the town. You can't advertise at enough venues where you're going to have a festival. People like festivals. You got some more ideas, you need to have more festivals. That brings people in. The lake, probably one of the strongest, I'm not even going to say natural benefit, because it's not natural. It was created by the building of the Hartwell Dam. But nobody has as clean or pristine lake, much less the size of the lake that we have in Lake Hartwell. I just scratch my head in amazement for the people that go to Lanier. Because out of Atlanta, they think that Lanier is so much closer. Gosh, they can get up here quicker than they can to Lanier. And the chances of them getting run over by a drunk boater ain't near as great. But what a great place this is to come. But it needs to be enhanced even more. And I don't just mean fishing tournaments. Fishing tournament seems to be the big thing that chambers like to talk about, but it is one of them. But there's a lot of other things. People want to come where they can enjoy things. This isn't St. Simon's, but you know, it could be. When you link all these communities together, Stevens County, Toccoa, Franklin County has got 5 municipalities. Hart County, you've got 1, thank goodness. But you know, we have so much going for us in this area, because every time a job is created, that job will create 2 more jobs. It'll bring money into the local businesses, they'll shop local, and it just multiplies on itself. In Lavonia, I've said this for years, how proud I am of the relationship that I've had with Lavonia. But I'm even more proud of the historic leadership that this community has had. When I was first elected, Herman Ayers was the mayor. And Lavonia was on top of things, moving forward by the standards of the day. Ralph Owens came in, and it hasn't quit. This has been the most proactive, pro-business communities that I've ever seen. When I look and I see a chamber luncheon, and let me tell you something, my ego ain't quite as big as a lot of politicians. Don't forget, I've been there 25 years, so I've never lived the life. But when I see this many people show up for a local chamber meeting, luncheon, that tells me that these people care. They care about the community, and they always have. And I will tip my hat to the city of Lavonia and the citizens for that reason. And I don't have a watch, so I don't know how long I talk, but at this point, I'm just going to take questions. And feel free to, feel free to, you don't necessarily need a card if you want to ask me a question, just throw your hand up and I'll recognize you for that too. But I tell people, be careful what you ask them, you might get an answer. And most of the time, I'm not too afraid to ask.
I've got one. I know you're a member of the appropriations committee. Could you enlighten us a little bit about how much is state budget goes to education?
Right now, the state of Georgia, out of a $20.8 billion direct budget that comes out of taxpayers' pockets in Georgia, about 55% of the state budget goes to education in Georgia. It's not so we're, and there's never enough. If you talk to Rudy from a lot of the superintendents and teachers, they'll tell you they ain't never enough money for education. And that's somewhat true. Because if you think education is expensive, you ought to try ignorance for a chance.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Medicaid with the state and why it is and all. High cost of living. Talk about it.
Healthcare is an interesting subject, and David's asked about the Medicaid costs, and trying to see how I can say this diplomatically, and I don't think it's a diplomatic bone in my bladder when it comes to some issue. Healthcare is an issue that it's got the current president elected when he ran 6 years ago. It was about healthcare reform. Well, we haven't had healthcare reform. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing the president. I'm not into the bashing, I'm into more about solutions for stuff. But we have a situation that our healthcare delivery systems in this country, we have the best systems in the world. And those systems have provided the citizens of this great nation with such a great process that we got people that are living that would have been dead years earlier. They're curing people of diseases and things today that they wouldn't have lived 6 months, years ago. Modern technology that went with that healthcare, newer hospitals, glamorous things that work. But that's how it works. But what it has created another problem. And that's problems for the people who can't afford insurance. We have problems with Medicare, Medicaid. Medicare, if you reach that magic age of 65, I mean, how much is it costing the federal government for that program? Medicaid for the below poverty guideline individuals that qualify for that. That's a state, federal quasi-match program. Tom Murphy told me a story. The great thing about being called a senior member of the legislature is that I learned a lot from the people that came before me. My dad said I never was smart about listening, but I did listen to some things. Tom Murphy told me a story back in the 65, 67, whenever it was, when the federal government passed Medicaid, that Georgia, the Georgia General Assembly, was not interested in signing into it. And they were promised by Lyndon Johnson at that time and the powers that be, that if Georgia would enter into and agree to participate with Medicaid, that it would never cost the state over $1 million a year. Well, here it is, 1994 budget, 2014 budget. And I think this year our Medicaid portion that came out is like $2.8 billion of state tax money. Now, a lot of folks will say, well, under Obamacare, why don't y'all just go on and open up the doors for all this extra federal money that'll come in? Remember what I told you, Medicaid is a federal state match. You can't outmatch the federal government. We don't have print presses. Our Constitution says we balance the budget. The federal government has a print press. And if you think that you can outspend them or outmatch them, you can't do it. Because if we increase totally what they are wanting us to do. If we would have to be prepared to raise at least $10 billion more per year over an 8-year cycle. And that, quite frankly, is something that we're not set up to do at this point. So if anybody thinks, if anybody tries to tell you that things are free that comes from the federal government, tell them no, there's nothing free. There's no such thing as a free lunch. And there's two things that's a certainty in life. You can't borrow yourself out of debt, you can't drink yourself sober. Questions?
We got one more process.
What is that? Is this next door neighbor over here, Sanctuary Point? Is that likely to come about?
You know what, I can only tell you what I know for certainty in Georgia. Sometimes I'm reluctant to even speak on that, and I certainly couldn't tell you about South Carolina. I do know that they have been going through the process. They have a control board in the state of South Carolina, and they've gone through that, and I understand that they're trying to get all the paperwork in order so they can start the sanctuary home development. And I don't know that it would be bad for us. You know, if it draws people down. You know, I know a lot of people in Atlanta, Georgia, who have property on Lake Hartland in South Carolina. I never have understood that, but you know, what they do. It's like table full of business people. Y'all have any questions over there? Y'all all making good money?
Yeah, well, I actually have two questions. One is back to the industry I'm in, or the second one for my listeners. We have a Ford Dodge dealership up here in town. The new ad valorem tax system that started in 2013. Is that system running well in Georgia? Are we going to see the changes with that? I know it's changed up our tax structure in Carolina. And I know it states actually that system's actually running well. You see some changes with it or anything like that?
Yeah, the only thing I possibly see, the question he's asking is about the new tax system for vehicles. Passed about 3 years ago, been working on for several years. The question is, I see the change. No, I don't really see any change. It seems to be working well. It brought in a lot of extra money into Georgia, but it also gave the citizens of Georgia a tax break per se. And you know, when this was passed, it did away with that annual ad valorem tax. So once you buy in the vehicle of the new system, you don't ever have to pay an annual ad valorem again. And all this will attrition out. As a matter of fact, your sales tax is even 0.5% or so lower than what your normal sales tax is. You ask where did that money come from? It came from all of the casual sales that were being sold. People were trading vehicles, selling vehicles. People right here running used car lots out of Silo shopping center at times. And they were basically circumventing the revenue laws. And it brought in a lot of money. Much to the disappointment of ECCG and GMA, the city and county lobbyists. You know, they had an opportunity to buy into it, but they didn't trust it was going to bring enough money, so they took the safe way just to be reimbursed what they were getting. But it has brought in so much extra money by plugging up these loopholes, so it's actually working good.
My second question is Georgia seems to be, movie production in Georgia, this is my interest, movie production in Georgia has seems like it's truly increased. With these Hollywood-based back in Georgia, movies. I know that in Iversham, we had a movie produced up there, and it actually brought a lot of revenue to that county park system. Is there anything we can do here to tell these movie productions to come into Lavonia, anything like that?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that you can do more than y'all do. I mean, you know, this depot is, you know, refurbishing this depot, this will make a great movie set or something. And overall, these production companies come in because the tax breaks that we've given, and I'm trying to think, and I believe in 2013, last year, I think the television and the movie industry brought in something like $3.3 billion of investment in Georgia. That's quite a gap. You know, your community, you know, always put you in touch with the economic development bureaus and all those, specifically the agencies that deal with them. You know, go out and build a studio. I tell you, it's quite an expensive proposition, but you know, they're looking for things. They're looking for places to have events. And I think that's would be the enhancement for this part of the country. Yes, Derek?
I'm following up. We've already had another case. They work with us every once in a while. But they've already shown interest. We got this here at Depot and we had 3 of them.
Okay. Harold?
Alan, what about transportation? What do you see as far as the state increasing taxes or putting more taxes on gasoline?
Yeah, I will tell you that transportation dollars are short. I will tell you we need transportation enhancements. And I'll cite Highway 17, for example. It's been under the governor's GRIP program for years. And they've been doing it in segments as money became available. But how do we get it done now? 17, what's the real importance of 17? Well, from 20 to I-85, that would cut off truckers having to go up to Atlanta and around 285 to come back up 85. So it would be a connecting highway, but it takes money to do it. Money that we don't have. And I say that because, you know, a lot of things that's happened in Atlanta, the metro area has, their needs and desires have taken so much over the years. It wasn't just them, it was the increased cost of building and road building in general. I-85 will be the next big issue because I-85 should have already been widened into a 6 or an 8 lane road. You know, and it's specifically, I don't think that you can raise taxes in the environment that we have. You know, the Tea Party environment, I think the guy from Freedom Works, but you got a lot of people that's opposed to it. But a lot of people don't mind paying if you come up with a logical system. If you raise the gas tax, you know, what was wrong with the former governor's plan? The one that resoundingly got beat in all the districts in the state except for 2. You know, what happened to that was that people just didn't fundamentally like what was put on the plate. It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to say we're going to penalize you if you don't vote for something. That's not what democracy and good government's about. But if you give people an opportunity, raise the gas tax, at the very least, it shouldn't be on sales tax. It should be more of a user fee. User fees would be, put it on the gas, if you're going to put a tax on something, put it on the gas, and it creates things. I remember back in the 90s, we had a proposition, and we couldn't get Governor Miller to go along with it, but I still thought it was a good idea, and under today's standards, don't get me wrong, it wasn't raising enough money. But we were going to raise the gas tax 15 cents a gallon. Then we were going to give a tax credit to every Georgia tax-paying citizen for the pro rata amount that they would have been paying extra in a year. And we were going to give specifically to businesses, if they want to keep their gas receipts by the gallon, give them that tax credit back. Now, that sounds kind of funny to you, but what we were going to do, we were telling you about picking pockets of the Yankees. We're going to pick pockets of folks coming through the state of Georgia using our interstates. They were heading toward Florida and every other place. So, you know, there's a lot of ways that you can do it, but it still needs to be ratified by the public. They need to understand. There needs to be an understanding between rural and metro Georgia. Metro Georgia has got problems with transportation. And despite the fact, whatever I may think about Metro Atlanta and places like that, they're still the engine that drives the economic triumph in the state of Georgia. We need them, they need us. They can't use all the resources and us get none. So there's a committee, there is a been established committee for this year, And they're looking at possibly new ways of transportation funding. And that's something I think everybody needs to get involved in. I'm a proponent of, quite frankly, I'm a proponent of toll roads. You know, if you're gonna go somewhere, you don't have the money to build a road, an adequate road, I don't mind flipping 50 cents into the box or whatever it costs. I mean, that would be a user tax, personally.
What percentage of the state budget goes to transportation?
You know, the transportation budget is relatively small because they survive off the motor fuel tax and that portion of the sales tax on motor vehicles. I can't give you a total dollar amount. If I had to say just out of the general budget, probably not more than 3 or 4%. But then the rest of the money comes off the sales taxes and the motor fuel tax.
You want to talk about anything on the interwater basin transfer? Anything happened on that?
No, don't get me on the stir. You know, that's still hemmed up, and we don't have any problem. I will tell you something that I'm quite proud of, is that last year, all of my bannering and raising cane about the Savannah River water basin and the lake levels, and started 25 years ago, quite frankly, with the interbasin water issues. And that was the need for Georgia and South Carolina to work together for a common goal. And this past, last September, I had an opportunity to meet a guy. He was my counterpart, lived in Anderson County on the lake. And he liked what I was talking about. We formed a Savannah River caucus in Georgia. And it was from everybody from Rayburn County to Ports of Savannah. And we're working on issues. That's our whole deal with that caucus, is to work on issues that are of importance down our eastern side of the state. They liked what I was talking about in Carolina. They formed the South Carolina Savannah River Coalition. And last September, we had quite an affair on the lake that both governors of both states, both lieutenant governors, we had a soiree of legislators. And quite frankly, what the hell it means except for one thing: all politics are personal. You get to know folks, then you get to working out problems. There's more problems that are worked out eyeball to eyeball than anything's ever been done in the newspaper. And that's been that's been something I've been very proud of. John's already stood up twice. I'm just waiting for I'm just waiting for Ann to raise her hand to say grace over this, but I want to tell you what a great... Well, you began speaking of the Second Amendment bill that passed this year. You know, it is the Constitution, and I listen to people that talk about we expanded people's rights. You can't expand people's rights. The only thing you can do is protect their rights. The issue about guns in churches is, quite frankly, we allow private property to rule the day on the issue. If a church doesn't want anyone to have a weapon, then that's their policy. Nothing says that you can carry a weapon in a church, unless if they don't want it. Just like my home, I've got some people, I've got some friends, and I got some constituents, and everybody's welcome to come to my house if they want to. But I got some of them, if they bring in a gun, I believe I'd just as soon not for them to do it. But I want to thank y'all for allowing me to be here. Thank you for the invite. As always, I tell people, if you need me, just feel free to call, and if you don't know my phone number, I'll put anybody in here, they tell you how to get a hold of me. I will be celebrating my 25th anniversary. Something John didn't tell you is that I was the chairman under the old Democratic leadership, and Speaker Austin saw fit to use my expertise in other issues. I chaired the House Committee on Public Safety, Homeland Security. I'm a senior member on the Appropriations Committee. Matter of fact, 25 years, I guess I'm a senior committee member on about every committee I serve on. But serve on a good many committees, and I just cannot tell you how grateful I am being invited today, and if I could ever be able to help you, please let me know.